Hello YouTube, it is August 14th. I don't normally make videos on Thursdays, but today is the day that Isla and the Happily Ever After is released and in stores, and so I thought it was a good time to make an exception because I want to talk about this book. So, Isla and the Happily Ever After is by Stephanie Perkins, who, if you don't already know, also wrote Anna and the French Kiss, Lola and the Boy Next Door, two wonderful, beautiful, perfect contemporary romances. So I got the pleasure of reading this book early. Penguin sent it to me, and I've been helping promote it in the last month or so, which has been a lot of fun, and honestly, sort of an honor. As I said, I've read this book already. I'm gonna talk about it a little in sort of a broad sense, so you're safe to watch this video even if you haven't read it. I'll let you know the point at which I'll get into spoilers, so you can come back and watch the video later after you've read the book. So this book takes place in Paris. It's about a girl named Isla Martin who goes to SOAP, the School of America in Paris, which is the same place that Anna and St. Clair went in the first book. These books are loosely a trilogy. Basically what I really love about it is that you get to find out how the previous characters are doing. Normally you don't get that. A lot of times the book ends and it's just up to you and your imagination to decide how you think the couple is doing. They've probably gotten their happily ever after, but you don't know any details. These books are fun because when you get to Lola, you get to hear about Anne and St. Clair and see how they're doing. And the same thing happens in Isla. I don't want to spoil it because those are some of the best parts. So as I said, this book is about Isla Martin, who goes to the school in Paris. It's her senior year. Isla is in love with Joshua Wasserstein, and he's like a cool boy and she's like a shy girl. And she doesn't think that he would ever love her because they just sort of live in different planes. But they run into each other over the summer when they are back in New York, and it sort of starts this snowball into their new relationship, which isn't really a spoiler because it's obviously a romance. I didn't totally relate with Isla. I think that we approach a lot of things in life differently, and there were a couple things that she did that I definitely was frustrated with her about, but I think in general you understand her reasoning for the most part behind all of her actions, which is really important. Even if you don't agree with a character's actions, it's important that you at least understand why they did it. And Josh, while sometimes I thought was almost too perfect of a character, also felt very real and was just a very lovable character, and I just loved getting to know him through Isla, and it was just really fun. Isla's best friend, Kurt, has autism, and I think that much like how having gay parents in Lola is addressed but not made a pivotal point of the novel, which I really liked about Lola, the fact that Kurt has autism is it's just a character trait of his, and I love that it's presented as this totally normal thing, and it's not highlighted as an issue for him. I think that she does a really good job of bringing these types of characters that don't normally get any time in the spotlight in contemporary fiction in a way that's really normalizing. I don't really know exactly what I'm trying to say here, but basically she does a really good job of bringing things into her novels that are usually considered like tricky subjects, but she does it with such ease and grace that they don't feel tricky. And I worried at some points that Kurt's autism was going to be one of the things that gets in the way of their relationship, and it never did, which I really appreciated. In fact, she even gets upset with Kurt at one point because of something that he does that she sort of blames on him not being able to keep a secret, and she actually has to come around and realize that it was really unfair of her to expect that of him and all these things. There was a lot of really great relationship stuff going on. The relationship between Isla and Kurt, the relationship between Isla and her sisters, the relationship between Josh and his parents, all of those things on top of Isla and Josh's relationship. It wasn't the only thing going on in the book. I'm sort of trudging on spoiler territory here, so I'm gonna just wrap this portion of the video up by saying if you have not read either of these two books, you should definitely go check them out, and then pick up Isla because it's definitely been worth the wait, and now I'm gonna talk about it more in detail, so that's your warning. So when I first opened this book, and you start in the cafe Kismet, I really like how it just jumps into the action. A lot of romance books have to start with this obligatory building of the character's life, and then they notice the person, and then half the book is spent with them like trying to get their attention or something, and we just skipped all of that. It's just known that Isla had a crush on Josh, and now she's on drugs and talking to him at the cafe, although I still question why Isla was by herself at a cafe the same day that she got her wisdom teeth pulled, still on drugs. I've had my wisdom teeth out, and I had to be like carried out to my dad's truck. And then they had to like place me on the couch, and I didn't move for like at least 24 hours. So it's never really explained why Isla is at a cafe by herself. I don't know where her family was, why they, like, if she just wandered out of the house and nobody saw her leave. And furthermore, why she could even eat cheesecake. I know that cheesecake is soft, but I had pudding for like 3 days, and she's chomping on cheesecake at this cafe by herself. So anyway, I don't want to like criticize this opening scene too much because I did really like it. I really liked that she had this crazy courage to just talk to Josh, and how later she's embarrassed about it, but like it happened and so she can't change it. But I would like to know how she ended up at that cafe by herself on drugs. That being said, aside from that one scene, I feel like nearly every other scene between Isla and Josh is incredibly real. There were so many little tidbits that, I mean, I'm a lot older than these characters, and I feel like the act of falling in love, it's not like different, but there are things that you pay a lot more attention to when you're in high school than when you're older. And it just brought me back to some of the things that I remember from feeling like that when I was a kid. One of my favorite scenes is, I think it was on their first date, and they sit down on this bench, and it's mentioned, it's like made important that they sit 2 feet away from each other, which right away I was thinking, why would you sit 2 feet away from each other? That's so weird. But then over the course of their conversation, it keeps getting mentioned that the space between them keeps getting halved until they're right next to each other and their legs are touching. And I actually literally remember something identical to that happening to me, where one time I invited a boy over and I sat in my computer chair across the room and he was on my bed, and over the course of like an hour talking, we ended up sitting next to each other and nobody really noticed that we were inching closer and closer together. And it was just one of those things that I needed to be reminded, was the way that you act when you're shy and you're nervous and you like someone. I will say though that the pacing of this book was really strange. I'm gonna preface this again by saying that I loved this book, and I recommend it to everybody. But it started very slow for me. The first 180 pages of this book have zero conflict, which once you get to the second part, you understand why, and it kind of hits you like a ton of bricks. But as I was reading, I realized that I was halfway into the book, like actually even a little bit past halfway, and I wasn't sure what the plot was yet. There was a point where I realized everything that has happened has been good. It's shy girl likes boy, finds out that boy likes girl, their relationship rocks. So as I got further and further into the book, my apprehension started growing more and more that obviously something big was about to happen. And I know that this is a Steph Perkins book and not a John Green book, and so I really didn't think that a character was gonna like die or get cancer or something. But it felt like the further we got into this book, with nothing bad happening, the worse the conflict had to be to balance that out. And there's even a point where I turned the page and a new chapter started, and it starts with Isla saying, "You're going home?" And I thought that Josh had been expelled for some reason, and then you find out that it's just for a week to be part of the press of his father's election, and you're like, that's really not that bad. Isla, you need to calm down. It's 7 days. And so actually, because of that little red herring, I was sort of blindsided by him actually being expelled and being sent home. But the way that it all exploded and him leaving was bad, but still wasn't as bad as I imagined this conflict was going to need to be. Because honestly, they were going to be apart now, which sucks. He was kicked out of school, which sucks. But they had less than a year until another plan that they had already made together. It wasn't like they still each had like 3 years of school left. It wasn't like they didn't know what was gonna happen next. They had already made a plan, and that was great. And so like the big conflict suddenly was just that they had to be a long distance relationship for a while. And so again, I was on board, but I was like a little disappointed that the conflict wasn't very big, because I know that Stephanie Perkins is an amazing writer and that both of her previous books had just blown me away. And so I was still sort of waiting for this large external thing to happen. And so when the big conflict wasn't external at all and was actually something that came from inside Isla, that was this totally internal insecurity thing, I just totally didn't expect it. And so I know that I've sort of talked about how the beginning was slow and how I was a little bit disappointed, but I think all of that led up to me being totally shocked and blown away at the end of that Christmas party when Isla just breaks it off with him. For no reason. I mean, and like I said before, you understand sort of why she does it, even if you don't agree with her. But I kept just waiting for someone to die, a natural disaster, like a war like, I don't know, something. I don't even know. I was getting to the point where I was like, alien invasion has to happen or something for this book to have conflict. But when it comes from within her, that was something that I just had not considered, and I was shocked. Now that I've read the book and like can understand how it was all laid out, I sort of appreciate the strange pacing of the book. It's just paced in a way that books normally aren't. I was waiting for this like sort of formulaic fiction novel relationship, and I think what Isla and the Happily Ever After actually presented to us was something much more real. You know, you have this great relationship that feels wonderful and magical and perfect, and then something really horrible happens and it's almost destroyed, and for 2 months it is destroyed. The fact that Hattie's character is finally given this deeper look because she's the one who finally is like, no, you know what, forget this. I'm gonna send this comic that Isla bought, and how he comes and he calls her and he gives her the whole graphic novel and she reads it and he's waiting out in the snow. It was just like, my heart was pounding. It was just the most beautiful thing. And the fact that he'd already written their happy ending because he had so much faith in her. He had as much faith in her as she sort of didn't have in him. I loved the scene where basically all three of Stephanie Perkins' couples are sitting in the pizza place together with Meredith, and you just get this little glimpse at how different each of these three couples are and how they each have their own magical story. It was just such a fun little scene for fans of all three of these books that I really appreciated, and then especially the proposal. Ugh. Just when you read Anna and the French Kiss, you never think that you're later gonna get to see them get engaged. I just loved it. I didn't expect it at all, and it just made my heart swell. I don't know if Isla and Josh quite top the other two couples for me, and I think maybe it's just because I feel like I've been with them longer, and Isla and Josh are still new. There's so many little things where when I first read a line, I was like, what is that? What? But then later it's explained, like when Isla asks what time his train is, and he's like, I'm not sure. And she gets annoyed at him, like, how do you not know when your train is? And then later it turns out that he never actually bought a ticket because he was so sure that he was going to visit her. I just loved it. I just loved it. And I think it was really cute that this story was marked at each of the important sectors by Kismet, the cafe, that it opens there when she sort of makes that first move. She waits for him there on New Year's Eve and he doesn't show up, and then they meet there again at the end when their new journey together is about to begin. Oh god, I just love this book so much. I'm so happy that it's out now. I'm so happy that I can finally talk to people about it. I highly recommend this book. I would love to know your thoughts. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.